Oh, yeah. Friends of FanDuel, what is going on? What is happening? We are here for the FanDuel Monday Night Preview, second edition of the FanDuel Monday Night Preview, I might add. I'm your host, Ryan Williams. You can find me on Twitter at @RyanAlexander_W. And we're here talking Monday Night Football. That's right. We got the Packers going against the Detroit Lions. We're here to answer all of your DFS questions that you might have. You might have some betting questions that you might have. You might have some same game parlays that you want to throw in for this game, as it should be an interesting one here as we see the Packers try and get right and take on the Detroit Lions, who somehow magically ended up to make the spread closer than it was in week one on San Francisco. But appreciate everybody who's coming in here. Brandon and Brian, we'll get everybody settled in and we'll start rocking on the FanDuel channel with you guys. Shout out to everybody who's on YouTube right now and watching us along. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Give us a like, give us a rating on the channel. All of that stuff helps as we build up the algorithm and we try and get to you guys and your questions. Brian asking, is Aaron Rodgers a good bet? Brian, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is a good bet. He's a good bet every time he's on the slate. And I know that people are talking about or maybe overhyping the fact that Green Bay just got their butts handed to them last week against the Saints. And I've already seen, my guy, Brandon DeGula, friend of the show here, FanDuel guy, was already talking about on Twitter, the Saints beat the Packers, then the Saints go on to lose to the Panthers. So by, the transitive property, the Panthers would be able to take on the Packers. The Packers are in a get right spot here. They're at home. They're going against Detroit. Aaron Rodgers has had success against this team a lot in his career. And I see this as a real bounce back spot. They, didn't have everything going with them in the offseason. We know all the drama surrounding around him and the team. And it just seemed like they came out flat. They just weren't ready to play. The Saints were. And they, showed that. And so now they have to, come home and prove it to the fans that they are for real, that this is the last dance, quote unquote, so to speak, for Rodgers and Devonta Adams. So I do see him in a bounce back spot. Ryan, shout out to you, man. Ryan Bennett in the chat asking what he should or who he should start as his 2 multiplier flex. And Ryan, as I get to your question, I'm going to bring in our guest here for today's show, Miss Jessica Gridiron. You can find her at Gridiron and Wine on Twitter. Jessica, how are you doing today? What's going on?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for tonight's game and feeling good.
Yeah, no, we definitely are feeling good, and I definitely want to pick your brain as it comes down to the betting aspects on what we could take from the leans on tonight. But Ryan, to answer your question, starting in your flex, who you should be starting. I think that we got a lot to talk about here with the teams. I think that Valdis Scantling is an interesting guy as the Lions secondary is banged up. I think on the Lions side of things, TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift are going to be, 2 pillars for this offense, as Jared Goff is just not a deep passer. They're dealing with an injury to Tyrell Williams, their number 1 wide receiver. Only young guys and pretty much well-known or not well-known, unknown guys who are going to be riding out with them. So it's going to be an interesting one. Jessica, what kind of leans are you getting from this game? We got the Packers as 11.5 favorites at home. I was just talking about as you were coming into the channel, they really struggled last week against the Saints. I think people are down on this offense. Can we expect the Panthers? Can we expect the Packers to bounce back this week, or what do you see happening in this game?
Yeah, I do see the Packers bouncing back. However, I'm not going to put my money on it. I'm going with the Lions at plus 11.5. I also like the over as well, over 48.5. My reasoning behind that, do you want me to dive in and tell you why? Do you want me to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
I want to hear.
Okay, just making sure. So to me, as much as, yes, a bounce back for Rodgers and, not to be embarrassed, at Lambeau Field.
Right.
Another, week 2, they couldn't do it the same performance again, right? But this is a divisional game, and weird things always happen on divisional games. They also, do I see the Packers winning? I do, but they could be up 17, and then there could be 2 minutes left of the game, and Goff throws a garbage time touchdown, and they only lose by 10. So that's why I'm leaning towards the Lions in this game.
No,
You,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, I was just gonna say, we can just see this. I mean, you saw this yesterday with the other two games that had such high numbers with the Buccaneers, right? And they that game almost didn't cover. But, again, right at the end, they ended up scoring, the defense getting those touchdowns at the end. It's just like things like that happened. And that's why there's too much points on this game.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And so that's why I like the Lions.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, that 11 and a half, anytime you're talking about a half a point when you're dealing with the spread, it's always kind of that magic number, so to speak, for Vegas, the 3.5, 7.5. And so when we get over, 10, it does make people feel uncomfortable. And I was even talking about last week, the 49ers had that game won and covered. I mean, that was a surefire bet until we get to the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden we get Jared Goff acting like Blake Bortles in just fourth quarter garbage time and just pulling up the ringer. Now,
totally.
we do have a situation here where Green Bay, they're coming off of that tough loss. So maybe, they're not as apt to pull the starters. They're not as apt to, make those mistakes that San Francisco made. The defense has a lot to prove, just giving up 5 touchdowns to Jameis Winston in a pretty high efficient game. So, it's one of those things. And I do tend to kind of lean on the side too in divisional games, not really to take the bait, so to speak, when they're offering a line like that, because they can be somewhat competitive. But I don't know, with the Lions, they only have one path, I feel like, to win this game. And that is to get their stars involved. And it comes down to Jared Goff. You got to get DeAndre Swift involved. Shout out to Brian, who's in the chat. I see him asking about Swift. Is he playing and is he a good bet? I think so. I mean, I think that he has to play in this game. I think that Jamal Williams coming back to Green Bay, we'll talk about him. He's, probably in a good spot too. These running backs just saw 20 targets total against the San Fran team. And we know how good and stifling the Green Bay Packers secondary is. They got a ton of studs on that side of the ball. So it's really Swift, it's maybe Jamal Williams, and it's TJ Hawkinson, I mean, Jessica, this might be a guy who I just flat out got wrong coming into the season. He was one of the guys I was talking about on the FanDuel channel. Like, don't take him where he's being drafted. This offense is going to struggle. I really don't see it coming to fruition. But the two guys that really everybody was talking about in this offense were Swift and Hawkinson, because of how Anthony Lynn, the offensive coordinator, runs things. And that came to fruition in week 1. And if we can buy into that going forward, then these guys are going to smash.
Yeah, Goff, he loves his tight ends, and we saw it last week against San Francisco. And yes, the Packers defense is good, but it's not elite. And I feel like Goff, the only time he struggles is when he's under pressure. And when he's not, and he has time in the pocket, he's able to make those little dink and dunk passes, and he's able to get the ball to his tight ends and rely on them and the short passes. And that's why I see they'll be able to move the ball down the field slowly but surely, and they're going to be able to put some points up on the board. I mean, I could see them scoring anywhere between, 17 to 24 points. And, the Packers are going to have to still be able to beat that and put the points up on the board too. But are they going to be scoring? Are they going to be putting up 35, 40, 40 plus points? I just, I don't know. I don't see it.
I hear you. And it's hard to digest, right, off of just seeing that loss. I mean, listen, we're all human. We all can buy into sometimes a little bit of take lock when we see things that are happening and it kind of, comes to fruition. I mean, we just had this happen last night. I mean, nobody saw the Ravens except for myself. I'm big on the Ravens this year, so I had to keep going with that, with the plus 3.5 for Baltimore. But even then, I'm taking the plus 3.5. I'm not taking them straight up against the Chiefs when Lamar's never beat them. I mean, you need to see it first in order to believe it. And so I hear what you're saying. I do think, and shout out to Nick here, who's in the chat as well on Facebook. He's asking about the over 48.5, and I do kind of like the over 48.5 without taking the line here, because I do feel like, Jessica, that we're in a situation where even if the Packers, let's say they get out early, it's 21-0, 21-3 or something like that, and they're just taking control. Like, this is a home game in front of the crowd, and Aaron Rodgers has a chance to kind of right the ship and shut up the naysayers, so to speak. So this dude is not pulling up on the gas. I mean, it's full throttle. like I'm taking advantage of everything that this defense is giving me. And if they're going to allow him to score points, I think that, surely we can see the Packers hitting their implied team total. Again, it's just a matter of if Goff on the other side can come back and kind of put up points on the board. And you're really looking at maybe like 13 to the 14 point range for the Detroit Lions to hit in order for Green Bay to hit, I think. So if you can talk yourself into them getting 2 scores, getting a score and a couple field goals off of the Packers, then I do like taking that over 48.5. How do you feel about the over under today?
I love the over as well. I see it being 33-24 final score type of game for me. Like I said earlier, just some garbage time touchdowns possibly.
Sure.
And how I mentioned, Packers don't have the best defense. They lack the pass rush. So it's quite possible Goff is going to be able to have, like I said, he's going to be able to get the ball down the field. And, even looking on the other side with the Packers, I feel like this is also Aaron Jones' chance to bounce back a little bit too from week 1. And he should be able to have a good performance too, being able to get the ball, especially probably in red zone and everything. So, yeah.
I like that because I was looking at Aaron Jones here too, as I'm starting to kind of, it's that time when we start to think about the Monday night slate and kind of building our same game lines from a DFS standpoint. And I see people, talking in the chat, who's the highest risk, highest reward player, Andrew Carlson there with that ask. And I do feel like it is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones last year in this matchup, I think that people will look back and they see that. I think it was week 2 that the Packers faced the Lions again, and Aaron Jones exploded for a monster game, but Devonta Adams got hurt in that game, and I think that kind of alluded to that. And then he comes back the next time that they face and only, was able to get, I think, 60-some rushing yards and a couple catches, but not really that explosive game that we could be used to seeing Aaron Jones for. And we don't know kind of what the running back situation is. Jamal Williams has left. He's in Detroit. They have this kid, A.J. Dillon, who they gave high draft capital to, and maybe he's a red zone back, and we don't know it. We don't know what happens with Aaron Jones, but I do feel like Aaron Jones kind of sets up well when you're talking about the Detroit Lions defense that has no secondary and really has no answer, I think, for Aaron Jones to kind of smash tonight. What's your lean on Aaron Jones, and what would you be interested in for him tonight, if anything?
Oh, I love him. I think just like you said, this is going to be an explosive game for him, especially going up against the Lions defense. I'm expecting 90+ yards and possibly 2 touchdowns.
Perfect. And you're talking 90 yards. Are you talking scrimmage yards? Are you talking rushing alone? Or how are we getting there to that 90-yard mark?
Rushing.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Yeah, we got some interesting prop lines that are coming in from the player props that I'd be willing to pick your brain at, Jessica, if you are inclined to have me do so before we leave the channel today. Shout out to everybody who's here. You guys are watching the FanDuel Monday Night Preview. Myself, Ryan Williams. I'm here with Jessica Gridiron, and we're here taking your questions and everything that you have around the Monday Night Football game. Jessica, let's talk about this Detroit Lions side. And I know you're kind of, you alluded to in taking the over, okay, if Detroit's scoring 24 points, how are they getting there? What's a scenario that you can talk yourself into to where this team is putting up 3+ touchdowns, and how can we get there? And maybe that could lead us to some lines on the Detroit side that we could be taking some bets on.
Yeah, I mean, Goff loves his checkdowns. And like you had mentioned, I love Hawkinson and Swift going into this game tonight. Those are his 2 best players. And, I see him being able to take advantage of that and use them to his advantage to get the ball down the field.
Yes, I think that Hawkinson, incredible. He's coming in at plus 220 on the FanDuel Sportsbook there to be an anytime touchdown scorer. I think that that's a surefire bet if you can definitely talk yourself into scenarios where Detroit's putting up multiple touchdowns. You got DeAndre Swift, who's plus 190 on the FanDuel Sportsbook to score. And then you got Jamal Williams, who's coming in at plus 260. And this is a revenge matchup for him, just because he's returning to Green Bay. He had a funny clip that was going, I don't know if it was viral, but let's just say semi-viral, about, leaving the Green Bay Packers and kind of what that meant. And he was kind of like, I didn't, they just didn't want me. Like I would have stayed if they wanted me, but it's like an ex-girlfriend that leaves you. And that's kind of how I feel. And so, he could be coming in here and maybe want to, show them that, hey, I still got something left in the tank. And even though I'm just across the way, I could have been a valuable piece to your team. DJ in the chat was asking about how many receptions he thought, or receptions and carries that he thought Jamal Williams was going to combine for. And I mean, you're coming off of a week for him where he, like I said, he was up there with DeAndre Swift when in terms of targets. Now the carries, I think he didn't see as many in the snap share. DeAndre Swift was way ahead of him, but the numbers were the same on limited uses. And that's kind of what we saw with him in Green Bay when he was with Aaron Jones. That's what made it so frustrating, is this dude would come on the field and would just be so explosive. I mean, ripping off 5-yard runs, 6-yard runs, catching passes. And I could really see him being utilized in this offense as well too tonight, because of the wide receiver corps for Detroit being kind of depleted, and they just need something to get going. And Jared Goff is just a short A-dot passer. So both of these guys should be utilized. Do you feel that way too?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll get more than 10 carries personally, but targets maybe 5 to 10 based on playing from behind the whole game. And that's how I see it going.
Yeah, no, I mean, they should be playing from behind. And I think, you're looking at, even on next gen stats, when you're looking at, TJ Hawkinson's routes and DeAndre Swift's routes, those were the two main ones that they had up from last week. And everything is just so close to the line of scrimmage, not much traveling 15 yards down the field or more. And so I think that they should be able to see usage and bumps, a plethora of targets here coming from these guys out of the backfield. But, interesting stuff to talk about when we're talking about the lines and stuff. Let's see if we got any more questions here. Yeah, I see DJ, you're in the chat asking about, will Aaron Jones go nuts? I think Jessica and I both feel that lean on it. Dennis, you're asking about a Hawkinson touchdown. We really feel good about that. And you guys can keep getting your questions in, and we'll try to get to them as they relate to bets, relate to everything for your FanDuel single game play. I had talked about earlier, I really do like Valdis Scantling in this game for Green Bay. You're just looking at his usage. I mean, this guy saw the same amount of targets as Devonta Adams did last week with 7. And he's just so inclined to just take the top off of a defense. They're struggling in the secondary. I think that, taking him to, maybe you don't want to take him to score a touchdown, but when you're looking at kind of the player props and parlays on the FanDuel Sportsbook, this guy, if you take him to go for 80 yards in Green Bay to win, you're looking at plus 680 right there. I love that bet. That's just incredible value. And the FanDuel Sportsbook offers a ton of that type of stuff when you guys are going in, diving in through the parlays and everything like that. So make sure you guys are checking out the FanDuel Sportsbook and getting some action on there, because there is some fun stuff that you can do, as well as the same game parlays. Jessica, what kind of player props do you like to look at when it comes to betting on these games, when it's just maybe a Monday night game or prime time Thursday night game, when there's only one bit of action that we can take bets on? What kind of things do you like to invest in, if you were, so to speak?
I'm not huge on player props, but I just kind of wanted to add into a little bit what you were just talking about. I feel like the Lions secondary is depleted, and when it's not, they're a great secondary to begin with. And I think you'd get great odds on Scantling compared to Devonta. So I can see about 70 plus yards, possibly a touchdown from him.
Excellent. No, and let's talk
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've gotten so far into this chat, and we're not even talking about, the elephant in the room here, Devonta Adams, the incredible wide receiver 1 from a year ago. This dude was a touchdown magnet for Aaron Rodgers, utilized in the red zone, has had some success a lot of success actually against Detroit in the past. And what should we expect from him in tonight's game? I mean, they, like I said, they struggled last week, even though he did see those 7 targets, and that was against a guy like Marshawn Lattimore. Now you're getting him against this secondary who I don't think could, cover tissue paper, so to speak, Jessica. I mean, they're just not going to be good tonight, missing Jeffrey Okudah, their star quarterback. So when we're talking about Devonta Adams, what can we expect from him in this game, as it's a get right spot for him too, and also a contract year for him as well that we have to, consider as we talk about storylines with the Green Bay Packers all year?
Yeah, when it comes to Adams, I I'm sure he's going to get over 100 yards. I'd lean strongly that he gets a touchdown tonight. And I have a feeling that A-Rod will be looking for him early and often.
Yes, and as he should, because I mean the offense just as much as important as Aaron Jones is to this offense, Devonta Adams is even so much more important. And he had been talking him up through the off season and kind of talking about they need to get on the same page and things like that going into this week. So I could really see them coming out and really wanting to come to fruition. Now we talked about two guys there on the Green Bay Packers side, who actually three when we throw in MVS, and really the two guys who are important for Detroit and DeAndre Swift and TJ Hockenson, but maybe something like Jamal Williams gets into the mix. Are there any leans and things that you could take? And let's talk about just from the DFS side of things. We're building these lineups, and so on FanDuel you got the MVP slot that gets 2x multiplier, right? So I wouldn't be willing to put anybody in there who's not one of those guys that are mentioned. But when you get into the flex spots, we see that quarterback kind of allows itself to kind of be into these narratives, even though people want to pay up for the skill positions. And we're talking about the Lions putting up points to help us get to that over. Do you see that Jared Goff being a viable flex spot if people wanted to go that route instead of playing two of these skill position players? Maybe you take a Jared Goff and TJ Hockenson and hope that Hockenson catches one or two is really the guy, or take Jared Goff and Swift and just hope that Goff throws 2 touchdowns, but they don't go to the same person, or one of them goes to Swift. What are your thoughts around Jared Goff today, Jessica, as we can try and help people kind of put their lineups together?
I think so. I'd say go for it. I feel like I had mentioned, I think Goff is going to be able to put points up on the board. He's going to be able to hit his tight ends. And so if it's what you need to do and you feel like I'd say go for it. Take off. Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely, I mean, the quarterback scoring is just so valuable, when you're talking about it in general. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The reason why the offense is putting up points, they're getting them down the field. He can throw a touchdown. He could even run for a touchdown. And if that, tickles your fancy at all, I mean, getting Jared Goff at an anytime touchdown score, I was looking at it earlier. Let's see what it is at the FanDuel Sportsbook. If this dude was to run it in, that's 9-1 odds there on the FanDuel Sportsbook. If you think that, you can take a shot on him, maybe they get stopped on the 1 or something like that. He has some rushing upside. If you go back and look at his numbers with the Rams, which is actually something that I was looking at. I don't know why, maybe for fantasy purposes, drafting him late, thinking that maybe I could get some production out of him. Go ahead, Jessica. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, I mean, we all saw what Danny Dimes did on Thursday,
right,
of using his legs and everything. It's just not what people were expecting. And then, it was, and then there was that. So.
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, those are always fun bets when you can get the quarterback, if you're getting like a sneak or something like that. And they're always paying, close to 9-1, 10-1 odds when they're not a guy like Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson or somebody like that who we think is going to take it in. So yeah, I'd be willing to get a bet on that. I see Kyle in the chat. Shout out to Kyle R coming in on the YouTube channel. Like Jamal Williams over 20.5 yards receiving. Yeah, I think I could get behind that too, Kyle. I think Jessica feels the same way. They really have limited options where they can move the ball. I think that we know that Anthony Lynn likes to target the running backs. They just had 20 targets, as we were talking about last week. So him, hitting over that total, I don't think is going to be hard at all, granted that he is healthy and seeing the field. So I do like getting some action on Jamal. I'd be more willing to take DeAndre Swift if we were building a lineup there on FanDuel in the single game pool. But if you want to get some action on Jamal Williams, I think it's nice to put him into a same game parlay tonight, or just take action on those receiving yards, because I think that the running backs and the tight ends are going to get a lot of work tonight. DJ, go ahead. I was just going to say, DJ in the chat was asking about Robert Tanyan too, and we can kind of talk about him, as he was also a touchdown magnet last year for this team, catching 11 touchdowns and being like a top 10 or top 6 tight end in fantasy when it came down to it. And he pretty much saw his role not really changing last week at all in week 1. Really, getting work and seeing the field, and they only have like Mercedes Lewis there to fight with him for time, and he's more of a pass blocking guy. So I think that Robert Tanyan getting a touchdown is kind of exciting too. as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Tight ends are a safety valve, especially in the end zone, since they're such big targets. I'd say go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's good. And I was looking at his line too. He is plus 195. He actually has better odds than TJ Hawkinson to score a touchdown here on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So I think that says a lot about just his usage and how he should be utilized when they get into the red zone. And that's why he's coming in at that favorite. Shout out to Mike Smooth, who's in the chat here. Saying great show. We appreciate you rocking with us, Mike. Adam, who's in the chat on Facebook, hoping that the Packers get this game locked up and rebound from the L that they took. I think a lot of people are hoping that, because a lot of people have exposure to this offense in fantasy, and we definitely want to get a bounce back. I'm in a fantasy matchup where I need 3 points from Aaron Rodgers, or 4, I think, to win my matchup, 3 to tie. And this guy only got me 3 points last week, so I could utilize any type of bounce back that they want to offer us up. Shout out to everybody who's watching with us. Again, FanDuel Monday Night Preview Show. You guys can hop onto this channel every Monday. We're 4 p.m. Eastern is when we go live, 3 p.m. Central Time. I guess that's, 1 p.m. Pacific Time for those of you guys on the West Coast. So shout out to everybody who's coming in. Ryan Williams here at Ryan Alexander _W is where you can find me on Twitter, and Jessica Gridiron, you can find her on Twitter. If you're not already, go follow her for all betting advice that you guys need at Gridiron and Wine. Jessica, we only have a couple minutes here before we bring Jim in to talk MLB. I know there's some people who are anxious to get MLB in with Jim Talk as the season starts to wrap up. DJ's in the chat asking, is it safe to say no Jordan Love tonight? Yeah, DJ, I can pretty much, safe. Let's go safe. I mean, there's a 99% chance, I think, that we're just going to get Aaron Rodgers here. I mean, Green Bay, the statistics are not in their favor. If they go 0-2, I mean, that's pretty much, you can count them out of Super Bowl contention. 0-2 teams, are not very apt to make the playoffs. And so they really need this win to kind of right the ship and get it going. So I don't think we're going to see Jordan Love. Jordan Love was in that game last week when it was embarrassing to kind of put the starters back out there. So it was well undone. Put a fork in them, put a knife in them. They were cooked. And so I don't think we'll see Jordan Love tonight. You agree, right, Jessica? We're not getting Jordan Love on the field.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't see it. Yeah, he's not going to be playing tonight. But I just wanted to add one last little thing that I came across of why I like the Lions tonight. And
okay.
When it comes to the Packers, the last 15 games, they've been favored by 7 or more points. It's 6-9 against the spread. So that's another thing to really keep in mind on why I'm liking the Lions, and I just don't like that line being so high and feel like the Packers winning by more than 2 touchdowns isn't going to happen. But that's
an interesting nugget. I love that. And shout out to the FanDuel Sportsbook. If you guys are following along, you should be following all the FanDuel channels on Twitter, but definitely the FanDuel Sportsbook as it relates here to the betting preview. And they were tweeting about how just successful the underdogs have been against the spread, this morning coming into it. I mean, the underdogs have really started the season fairly strong. And so if we can get a good lean on tonight, plus 11.5 there, minus 105 is what it's coming in at the FanDuel Sportsbook. I think that's a great way to get action on some lines. Aaron, shout out to you. I hear you, man. The showdowns are tough. They can be, because there's so much variance that could happen, and everybody wants to jam in the guys, and we do have pricing restrictions there on the channel. It is interesting to me. Marquez Valdis Scantling is coming in at the 13th highest priced guy on the slate at $8K. He's lower than the kickers. He's lower than Tyrell Williams, who's going to be out. So I think that I'm a big fan of his. Like I said, anytime touchdown, I think would be great to get some action on him. And shout out to Jessica, who joined us today. She's taking the Lions at plus 11.5. So if you like that, get that action now before it moves or can move and have some late changes there. Jessica, we're at the 30-minute mark. I know that Jim is going to be coming on soon, but I just wanted to thank you for joining today. And if you guys aren't following her, again, at Gridiron and Wine is where you can follow her on Twitter. She's doing betting stuff, not only for us here at FanDuel, but for Pro Football Network, for covers as well. And Jessica, we just appreciate you hopping on. Even SJC_capping is on Periscope. He's saying, hi, Jessica. They're shouting you out in the chat.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It was so fun.
No problem. No problem at all. And MLB DFS Q&A is coming up next with our boy, Jim Sonis. You can follow him on Twitter at Jim Sonis if you aren't already. He's coming in right now. Jim, how's it going, my friend? How you doing?
I'm good. I am jealous, though, of Jessica's Fernando Tatis poster. I was staring at that the whole time. Like, where can I get one of these? I kind of want one.
Yeah, I actually, one of my good buddies, he designed it for me. That's what he does, a lot of artwork like that. And if you are interested, let me know for sure, and I can get one for you.
If it's Tatis specifically, yes, I'm in. Let's do this. Very down. That could be awesome.
You got it.
And Ryan, I'm proud of you for not besmirching my boy Jared Goff during that entire discussion. You were very gentle. I know you had to resist the urge to let your true feelings out, but I appreciate it. And I gotta say, Cooper Kupp, I might be finally in. I think you've won me over. I'm sorry
gosh.
I was wrong.
Fantasy police. What is
Ryan
going
was
on?
right.
What is happening? Where is Jim?
Ryan was right. What can I say? It happens.
It does happen. Hey, more so than Cooper Kupp fantasy owners right now, I really feel bad for Robert Woods fantasy owners. Yeah. That's looking rough.
It's Van Jefferson running more routes, getting no targets, but hey.
Right.
Let's free Van here. Let's do this.
Absolutely. Hey, Jim, good luck tonight in baseball DFS. I know it's winding down there, so you're going to have to be focused on football a lot more.
We have 10 more of these streams left, man. So let's go win some money. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Jessica. Good luck to both of you tonight. We'll talk to you again soon. All right, let's transition now into talking about some MLB DFS for today for this Monday slate. Follow Ryan on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W and check out Jessica Gridiron and Wine. Let's start things off here by going over to Twitter. Actually, let's go to Facebook and talk to DJ. DJ says, Jim, what is wrong with you? Kupp is the man. DJ, I was wrong. That's what's wrong with me. I was wrong. I was not in the Kupp before the year. It was a running thing where Ryan brought up on his very first stream with FanDuel. We talked about how good Cooper Kupp was, and Cooper Kupp has wronged me numerous times in my life, specifically because he had a couple drops turned into picks, fumbles when Jared Goff was a quarterback. I loved Goff coming out of college, so I have like this very soft spot for Jared Goff, and so whenever bad things happen that hurt Jared Goff, I hate the person who brought them about. So that therefore Cooper Kupp got a lot of my ire. But now DJ, we're on board. I'm okay with him. DJ also asking about Nestor Cortes for tonight. I think that he's a solid play. I'd say he's my number 3 pitcher following. I got Robbie Ray 1. I have Sean Manaea number 2. I tend to like Manaea more than others do. So I understand if you're not in Manaea, but I think he's sweet. So I like Manaea a lot. I think he's my number 2 behind Ray. Ray is hard to put lower than 1 just because, we saw him mow through this team last week. So Ray, number 1. I've got Manaea 2. Cortes is 3, in part because of the matchup. The Rangers, just not a good team against lefties. A 77 WRC plus, 121 ISO. Both those numbers pretty easily lowest in the slate. Super low fly ball rate is key for Cortes because he does let up a lot of fly balls. So we want to find pitchers or find teams that don't get a lot of fly balls for Cortes, and that is the Rangers. So I think that Cortes is number 3. DJ, I do like him quite a bit. Let's talk to John on YouTube. How would you stack the Phillies? They're facing John Means, so we do want to stick primarily to the righties here. I do think that the Phillies are in play because Means does let up a lot of fly balls. Matt Vierling, gonna be honest, don't know a lot about this guy, so let's check him out here and see what we can learn. Okay. Recalled from AAA back on the 31st. Okay, so in AAA this year, 112 ISO, but in AA did show some more power down there. The sample in AAA is pretty large. Didn't do a ton there. Not a lot of fly balls. Hasn't done much in the majors either. So probably not going to be super eager to get there. I would say we're looking, Bryce is a lefty, but who cares? Doesn't matter. Put Bryce in there anyway. Let's put Segura in there. He's been hitting the ball better recently than he was. And let's put Real Muto in there. Probably going to work best with a Manaea lineup just because I want to get Bryce in there and he might be kind of tough with Ray. And then probably would go Kutch, I guess. I also do think Freddie Galvis is an option if you want to try to save some salary just because he is pretty low down there and he does have some dinger upside. So I would say this is probably where we're looking for the Phillies. Phillies not super high on my list because I'm not a big fan of McCutchen, and that does cut down the depth of guys that I want to use in this team. But I do think that they're in play if you wanted to go with those guys. Kyle, how would you rank Suarez, Cortez, and Inoa? Okay, let's go back over here. Ranger Suarez facing the Orioles. I like the Orioles. Maybe that's stupid. I mean, I don't want to stack them. Definitely don't want to stack them. But I think they're a decent offense against lefties. Suarez, it's been good. I think that the sample of him getting strikeouts is expanding. The ground ball rate's still very high. So Suarez, good pitcher. Not sure if I'll get there for DFS tonight, though, because I do respect the Orioles as a team versus lefties. Cortez, number one of that group. Huascar Ynoa is facing the Diamondbacks. The pitch counts have been kind of a bit all over the place, but he's shown that he's not going to be short in games. And I guess that's probably enough to make him viable. So I'd rank them Cortez 1, Ynoa 2, and then I'd go Suarez 3. I don't think any of those guys, Kyle, are cross-offs. I would say that if your process drew you towards any of them, that is okay. I think that any of them, you can make a strong case for any of them. I probably personally will not get to Ynoa or Suarez tonight just because I do love Ray and I love Minaya, but I think that they're good enough where you can definitely talk yourself into them. So that's where I'm at with them tonight, is being okay with them, but not actively seeking them out just because I know I just lowered myself in my chair. I realized I was too high, not getting into my mic, and it sounded really hollow. So we're going to scoot down a little bit on the chair. But I think that for me, I'm not going to get to anyone besides Cortez of that group, but I think that Suarez and Ynoa are worth consideration, especially because Ynoa's matchup's really good for today. Let's talk to Eric on YouTube. How do you feel about exposure to a White Sox stack? They're not on the main slate. So let's pull up the matchup here. I've not researched their game. I will say that fully. Facing Matt Manning, I've not seen Manning on a main slate in a decade. So, Eric, my knowledge of Manning is limited. I'm assuming you're playing if there's a 643 game slate. Let me just check here since you were Eric's a good interaction on Twitter. So let's just do a little quick deep dive into Matt Manning here and see, despite the fact they're not on the main slate, see if we can decide how we want to handle this here. Let's go back over here. Okay, so Manning, let's find what his most relevant sample is. Go to pitch type. Okay, so added the sinker there. So let's lop it off to the 26th. And pitch mix has been relatively even since then. A couple fewer sliders recently. The velocity has been okay. So in this 9-start sample, 4.95 skill interactive ERA, 15% strikeout rate, 41% hard hit rate. The ground ball rate is 44%. So yeah, Eric, I think that they're fine. If you're playing that 3-game slate, again, I have not researched it. So fully unresearched take, but I do think that the White Sox do grade out fine if you're playing that one. As far as stacks on the main slate for today, looking at ones I do dig, I think that the Braves are solid against Humberto Mejia. If you listen to the solo shot this morning, I talked about how part of the evaluation around the Braves would stem around what they decided to do at Chase Field with that roof for tonight. They said the roof is open. So that means as opposed to 70 degrees, it is 94 degrees in Arizona for today, which is a very good thing for that Braves offense. That's also a downgrade for Ynoa, but I still think he's fine. He's not my top 3, but I think he's fine. So I think that we get the Braves here. Powerful team, really hot weather, much hotter than the rest of the slate for tonight. I think that makes them a really solid stack. Do like them quite a bit. The other change from this morning was the Brewers now facing John Lester as opposed to Jake Woodford. I still think they're a good stack. It's just a different stack because facing a lefty now as opposed to facing a righty. So we were talking about Omar Narvaez, talking about Dan Vogelbach. Lefty on lefty, they're tougher sells. So the Brewers still a good stack, just a different stack than they were this morning as a result of the change of pitcher going to Lester. I'd also say that Lester's results have been pretty good recently. So I think it does downgrade them. So I like the Astros a lot still facing Jaime Barria. I like the Yankees against AJ Alexy, and I do like the Braves against Mejia. Brewers might now be 4th on that list. I still think they're in play for value plays. Like Luis Urias, definitely good value play in there. Eduardo Escobar's salary is not super low, so I don't think he counts the value play, but I think he works versus lefties in general. So if Manny Pena plays, let's see what the salary is there. He is $2,100. I think that can work. So Brewers get downgraded with Lester's pitching instead of Woodford, but they're still in play for today. DJ says, stack the Cardinals tonight, considering they already clinched their playoff berth at Saturday's game against Cubs, which I was at, unfortunately. Oh, it's talking about the Brewers. So the Brewers clinched a playoff berth. I would not stack them. I could see a situation, DJ, where Freddie Peralta may not go as deep in the game as a result. And we've seen that pretty often with Peralta since he came back. He's gone 53, 81, and 71 pitches. But when he hands off that Brewers bullpen, there's some dudes in that bullpen. So I don't really want more exposure to their bullpen. I don't think that really changes things all that much for the Cardinals for today. The Cardinals offense, not a good one versus righties. So I get the angle there, DJ. I get the thought process. But given that they're not a great team, not a team I want to stack, and not a pitching staff I want to attack, I'm okay glossing over them. But I think the line of thought there is valid. And I think it does pertain to starting pitchers for the Brewers going forward. Brandon Woodruff going tomorrow. I do like him, but I can't think he'll go longer than 6 innings because they limit him a lot recently. And they have no reason to push him. So just keep that in mind for sure. DJ, I will say though, Cubs stacks are in play for tomorrow, facing Griffin Jacks. So if you want to hear some Cubs stacks, DJ, swing back by for the Q&A tomorrow at 4:30. Kyle, is there a team that stacks well with the Yankees? I think that, Kyle, if you're going to stack the Yankees, you need to find a second stack that is lower salaried, because the Yankees, the guys you want to use in the Yankees, I should say, tend to carry pretty high salaries. So check out the salaries here, the lineup here for the Yankees. LeMahieu. Okay, sorry. We got Gallo in there, Stanton, Judge. Gallo's salary is probably manageable, I would guess. Let's go over here to the Yankees. Let's keep Manaea in there just because I don't think I can get there with Ray. Let's do boom, boom, and Gallo. Okay, so basically looking at a lot of outfielders on this Yankees team. So I think that might lend itself well to the Brewers, depending what their lineup looks like. You've got Arias, potentially Pena, who could work well versus a lefty. Maybe they work out pretty well. The Braves have a lot of infielders between Dansby, Albies. They've got d'Arnaud. All those guys are infielders. So I think the Braves might stack up pretty well with them. If we're looking in terms of salary, I think it'll probably be the Brewers because Pena is super low salaried. Arias is low salaried. So probably looking at the Brewers in terms of meshing well with the Yankees in terms of a stack, and potentially the Braves if you have the salary to get to guys like Albies, et cetera, just because they're not super low salary, and that does make it kind of tough if you're going with Judge, Stanton, and Joey Gallo. Got a question on Twitter from Stu Money. He's asking for team totals we like today in Major League Baseball. Didn't pull those up yet because I've been focusing mostly on the DFS side of things. But let's look at some potentially undervalued situations we may have for today. Don't like the Blue Jays. Shane Baz is a guy I respect a lot, so not looking to go there. Team totals we could like. Maybe the A's facing Tyler Anderson. Let's see what their... This is not a 1-to-1 correlation, but let's check out what their implied total is. So it's probably going to be 4.5, I'm guessing, for the A's. I could see that being an overtime situation. A little bit warmer in Oakland than it usually is for today. 74 degrees. It is, I think it's a situation where we could see the A's stack up runs in a hurry because Anderson does let up a lot of fly balls. They've got some power against lefties, got some dudes we do like. So maybe you're looking at the A's team total. I think the Braves would probably be a good one. Not sure where they're going to wind up. So they're probably they might be at 5.5. They're at 5.5. I'll stay away. But I think if they're at 4.5, go Braves. It'd probably be juiced up to minus 130 somewhere in there. But I think you could consider the Braves depending on their. It's 5.5. I'll stay away. If it's 4.5 and the juice isn't too bad, I can go there for sure. Astros tend to have pretty high team totals in general from a betting perspective. And yeah, I think they're probably the primary ones I'd be looking at for today. I think those would be the ones that stand out most to me. The Yankees might be a bit overvalued depending on the way things work there, Stu, but we'll see what the sentiment is on them. So if you have any ones you're looking at specifically, put the number and the juice in the chat, Stu, and I will address those individually. Speaking of those Yankees, facing AJ Alexy, the reason I'm not maybe as high on the Yankees as potentially could be thought is that Alexy doesn't let up a lot of balls in play. 24% strikeout rate across his 3 longer outings, 16% walk rate. Now that's good. It's not a bad thing in terms of scoring runs because base runners are good, gets you access to middle relievers early, but it limits balls in play. And if you're thinking about the ways to generate upside in a hurry in MLB DFS, you need balls in play. you need home runs specifically. You need dingers. And Alexi can let those up because he lets up a lot of fly balls and is not suppressing hard contact, but there are just fewer balls in play. So like, let's say a team homers on 10% of the balls in play that they put in. This is just a totally made up number. If they get, let's say, 20 balls in play, then you expect about 2 home runs. If they get 15 balls in play, that goes down by a half home run. So it does matter a lot, the number of balls in play a pitcher allows. That's why I'm a little bit, tiny bit, baby bit lower on the Yankees, just because I don't think Alexi's the type of guy who's going to let up a lot of balls in play, does hurt them a bit. Now, I do something the Yankees are very good for stacking because things could spiral very quickly for Alexi, given the high walk rate, the high fly ball rate. He could let up a grand slam in the first inning. That could very well happen, so the Yankees are very worthy of exposure as a result. But if I'm trying to maximize home runs, that might not be the spot I turn to. I think they're the number 3 stack for today, behind the Braves, behind what's the other team? The Astros, but ahead now of the Braves, or the Brewers, given the switch to John Lester at pitcher for the Cardinals. Let's refresh here quickly and see if any of the teams we want to stack have their lineups out as of yet. Not super into the Cardinals. Yankees we talked about earlier with the way we wanted to stack them. I think the one thing we could check out here with regards to the Yankees is diving into Gleyber Torres' recent batted ball data, seeing what he's been doing there. And I want to check out also what Gary Sanchez has been doing from a strikeout perspective to see if we have reason to be super jazzed about him. I know Torres had a home run semi-recently, but when I last looked, when I last looked at the batted ball data for Torres, it still wasn't blowing me away. And so I wasn't overly inclined to get jazzed about what he had been doing. Let's go to StatCast here. And let's go since Gleyber returned. The barrel rate is 9.5%. That's actually pretty good relative to what he was at before. Hard hit rate still low at 33%. The launch angle down to 11.9%. Strikeout rate is at 23%. ISO is at 0.89. Still not a lot of juice in Gleyber's stick. And I think that's pretty disappointing. We do want to try to find some value guys in this lineup. It's just not the best upside situation for Gleyber. He has stolen 2 bases since then, so maybe he can get there via his legs, but not really optimistic about that being a thing that does pop up a ton for Gleyber Torres. Let's check out Sanchez and check out what his plate discipline numbers look like recently, because that's kind of the bigger thing with him. Let's go from here to here. Strikeout rate 20%. ISO is 173. That's down from what it was before, but given the gains he has had in his strikeout rate, it's encouraging to me that he is still hitting for some power. Let's go over here. Check out the StatCast data in this time. Since then, he has a 10% barrel rate, 37% hard hit rate. So it seems like he's making more contact at the expense of his batted balls. That's not the worst trade-off in the world. I'd prefer probably more strikeouts and a better, slightly worse or a slightly better contact profile, but I still think that this works. So if I were choosing a non-Stanton, non-Judge, non-Gallo, non-Rizzo type guy above Torres and above LeMahieu, I'd put Sanchez. So if you can't fit in, 3 of these guys, I would say a Judge, Stanton, Gallo, Sanchez stack gets you 2 of the big, super big power hitters, but does save you salary with Gallo and Sanchez. I think that's a pretty viable way to stack in the Yankees for today. Let's check out DJ on Facebook. Home run calls. He's got Paul Goldschmidt facing Freddie Peralta. Got Brandon Marsh going up against Framber Valdis. Lefty on lefty, and Valdis doesn't let up a lot of fly balls. That one's tougher. Christian Walker facing Inoa, Abraham Toro, and then Jorge Soler. I also asked about Christian Walker for today. I think it's pretty tough. I know that Inoa, let's see here. Actually, doesn't let up as many fly balls as I thought he does. I thought that he was more of a fly ball pitcher, but he's actually keeping the ball on the ground since he came off the IL. So that's encouraging to me in terms of, not going towards a guy like Christian Walker. Walker versus righty is just a 142 ISO. So I would say no Christian Walker for me. He does benefit from the fact that the roof is open for tonight. That's a good thing for everyone tied to this game. Just not enough for me to be super excited about using Christian Walker for today. We don't have the Braves lineup yet, but let's just talk briefly about what we want to do in terms of stacking them. And I think that we can stack them with Robbie Ray. So let's put Ray in here at pitcher. And let's go over here to the Braves. I'm guessing we'll see Eddie Rosario in there for today, given that he did have the cycle yesterday. So let's put d'Arnaud in there first. And then let's put Swanson in there because they're batting 6-7 most likely. That works. And we put Rosario in there under the assumption that he plays today, again, get off the big game yesterday. A lot more power for Eddie Rosario recently. I think that's encouraging. If we do that, we're at 31-40 left. That means we can get one of their really good hitters. We can go Freeman, we can go Albies, we can go Duvall. Soler's pretty low salary too. Not as good against righties, so maybe that's for good reason. Riley, we were asking about teams that mesh well with the Yankees. The Braves could. Like if you go Riley with this lineup, that could work well. It's going to be kind of tough to make it fit with Stanton and Judge, but it does help position-wise to have guys like Riley, like Swanson. d'Arnaud not as much because Sanchez is at catcher/first base. We also have Rizzo there, but I do think that Riley, Swanson, all those guys do mesh pretty well with the Yankee stack. So I think that does help us out quite a bit. And I do think that this would probably be a good way to stack things if you're trying to be salary conscious with the Braves. And I probably will be trying to be. I think the Braves are a team I might be turning to with my Robbie Ray stacks for tonight. DJ is asking, how would you stack the Angels and the Blue Jays with Cortez pitching? So we have some more salary flexibility here. Let's put Cortez at pitcher. I will say, DJ, I won't be stacking the Blue Jays because I have a lot of respect for Shane Baz. Let me show you why here in a second. His numbers in the minors are sick. Like sick. Okay. In AAA, Baz made 10 starts, 1.76 ERA, 36% strikeout rate, 16.4% swinging strike rate. Those are disgusting numbers. And you can notice here that, okay, he's got 10 starts and 46 innings. That means 4.6 innings per start. That's not very long, but he went, I think, 93 pitches his last time out, which is the longest he's gone all year. So it seems though the Rays were ramping him up, trying to keep things short initially because didn't have any competitive innings last year. Keep things short, so, keep him conserved so that they can use him this time of year. So I think that Baz is probably going to go 90 or so pitches. I see DJ, you asked that. Great timing. I think he's probably going to go 90-ish pitches for tonight. That could be wrong, but he went 93, his most recent minor league start. Let's pull up the minor league game logs here. You won't see pitch count on this one, but 6 innings, 5 innings, 5 innings. It seems to me, at least, this could be incorrect, could be a wrong read on my part, but it seems like to me, they brought him on slow in order to use him here when it mattered most and let him go as the season really matters to the Rays. So I think Baz is going to go 5-ish innings, probably 90 or so pitches. That's enough for me to not be super high in the Blue Jays. Also talking about Valdis on a shorter outing. He's a good pitcher, though. Framber Valdis, he doesn't have a huge strikeout rate, but in his 12 starts, more curveballs, a 15% fly ball rate allowed. So I was talking before about how batted balls are our one path to maximizing points in a hurry. It's tough to do that when the pitcher doesn't let up a lot of fly balls. And Valdis lets up none. 15% fly ball rate, by far the lowest in the slate. So although I don't want to use Valdis as a pitcher, I also don't want to stack against him because that fly ball rate is so low. Astros bullpen is pretty good. So no real interest in the Angels for me. Not real interested in the Blue Jays either, just because I have a lot of respect for Baz and I don't want to target Valdis given the minimal number of fly balls he tends to allow. Let's go over here and check out and see if the Brewers lineup is in yet, just because I do want to see what they will look like. Okay, so no Brewers yet. Let's see recent lineups of them versus lefties, see if we can kind of project what this will look like for today. So they face Justin Steele on Saturday. Math? Yes, Saturday. So we had Pena in there. We had Arias, Escobar, and then a couple lefties. Let's check out Kane. See what Kane's done versus lefties this year. See if we can use him because I think he's around $2,800. He is $2,800. Okay, so let's see if he plays. But if he does, maybe we could have some interest there. All right. Milwaukee against lefties. Arias is a lock to me. Don't need to see what he's doing. He's just good. He's a good baseball player. So we'll have Arias for sure. Okay. Noah Adames is a bummer. Eduardo Escobar, very good versus lefties. Okay, so let's build this out here. Why not? Let's go to Ray. And let's put a Rios at second base. DJ's mentioning the wall crash for Kane. Yeah, I think that's why he has that Q tag next to him. But it's been a couple days. He is not on the IL yet, so I think that's encouraging. Or he could play because they're facing a lefty for today. Let's get Pena in there. And we'll see on Kane. He might not play, but maybe. If he does, he hit fifth against the lefty a couple days ago. Let's see if we can fit Escobar too, given that we have saved a lot of salary with Urias and Pena. Again, assuming Pena plays, he might not, just because I think Narvaez is a pretty good catcher, so maybe you want to keep him in there despite it's lefty on lefty now. If we do that, 3140 left, that's not too bad. Then we're probably hoping for one more value play. If Kane does play, he would probably be that guy. So put him in there. But I guess we'll see what the lineup winds up looking like for them. I'm guessing the lineup's not out yet because, it was a change at pitcher. So that is a thing. Maybe they had to reshuffle a couple things and make that work. Yeah, I think this is probably what we're looking at with the Brewers. It does stink that they're kind of lefty heavy, kind of annoying there. But I do think that this would work a little bit. See if there's anything else here we want to turn towards. Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely stack there for the Brewers. DJ says his seats were right by the crash for Kane. Could feel the smack. It's one of those things where, I wonder what Lorenzo Kane could do as a hitter if he weren't so, aggressive with his body. He's taken a lot of hits over the years because he's so good defensively. What could he have done in his career? I mean, he's been a great hitter for his whole career, but what could he have done had he not taken all those blows? Because the dude's taking the beating for sure. Diffuse, best team to turn for value between the Braves, Yankees, and Astros. There's no value in the Yankees. There aren't, Sanchez kind of at 3,000, Gallo kind of at 31. I deem value plays being 3,000 and lower. Yankees don't really have that. So can't really be them. Astros depends on the lineup. I do think in general, I am very okay using their value guys like McCormick. Series definitely okay. Very on board with checking out Myers. If Aledmus Diaz plays again, I could see using him. Not really into Marwin Gonzalez personally. He tends to bat at spots in the order where you can get tempted, but I just haven't seen enough from him from an upside perspective to get enticed. I guess he's hit a couple bombs. Maybe I shouldn't be as dismissive of Marwin Gonzalez. Let's just see what the batted ball day looks like. Maybe I shouldn't write him off. Let's just dig into this really quick here. Since you asked, and go there. Okay. And let's check this out. Let's go over to StatCast. And so not a huge sample since he joined the Astros, but does have a couple barrels, 4 hard hit balls. Okay. Not terrible. Not terrible. ISO is 375. Okay. Striker at 29%. So he's hit the ball kind of hard. Maybe Marwin works. Probably don't want to get there. Don't think there's enough for me to get super jazzed, but he's at least done something. He's done something, which is more than I expected out of Marwin Gonzalez with the Astros. Maybe you could go Marwin, but I think the other guys to me are more enticing. DJ asking, how would you stack Oakland? Let's go over here. Oakland facing Anderson. I think they're better for one-offs than full stacks because Anderson, pretty good pitcher. He does suppress hard contact. I think that they're good for one-offs because they could, connect on one of those fly balls, make some hard contact, and put it out of the yard. So, I think Matt Chapman's great. Love him from just because he generates so much hard contact by himself. But I think that it's more so for one-offs. I'd say whoever catches works as well for the A's. I think that's where I'd be looking. Chapman for a one-off, Marte if you want to, but then also the catchers can work as well. That is all that we have here for today for the FanDuel Live Q&A. Back once again tomorrow. JJ Zacharias and I breaking down the top waiver claims entering week number 3. That'll be at 4 p.m. right here on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. I'll swing by at 4:30 to break down the main slate for tomorrow. Still a couple pitchers unknown. I still have John Lester on here. He will not be pitching tomorrow, obviously. So let's go ahead and just take him off there now. Boop. And Boop. If you want an early look at the starting pitchers for tomorrow, there is that. We'll be here 4:30 to talk MLB, 4 o'clock for the waiver wire Q&A. So make sure you are subscribed to the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages and swing by once again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Big thank you to Ryan and Jessica for starting things off for today, breaking down the MLB single game slate and also talking some betting for today. Follow Ryan on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W and check Jessica on Twitter at Gridiron and Wine. I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JimSannes. Big thank you to Joy Affleck, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Joy, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you tonight, whether it be MLB DFS, whether it be single game DFS, whether it be your prop bets, or just Packers versus Lions in general. Good luck. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been the FanDuel Live Q&A.